Good afternoon and welcome to the Joint Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, will you please take roll?
Senator Daly. Here. Senator Ellison. Senator Flores. Senator Lang. Here. Senator Rogish. Senator Scheibel. Here. Senator Steinbeck. Here. Chair Pazina. Assembly members Anderson. Present. Carter. Present. Cole. Here. Hardy. Here. Howdigi. Here. Kasama. Here. Miller. Here. Monroe Moreno. O'Neill. Here. Roth. Here. Torres Fawcett. Here. Yeager. Here. Urick. Here. Chair Marzola.
And I am here. Please mark Assembly Member Monroe Moreno present once she arrives. Welcome everyone that is here with us in Carson City. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas and those tuning in over the internet. Today we will hear one bill, Assembly Bill 555. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, which are all listed on the agenda. When testifying, please remember to turn on your microphone to speak and off to listen. Also remember to state and spell your name for the record. Committee information is available on the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through the legislature's YouTube channel. We ask that public comment be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. As always, I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. Finally, please put your electronic devices, especially your cell phones, on silent mode, or you are welcome to turn them off. And with that, we will move to our first agenda item. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 555. This measure establishes provisions relating to the coverage of prescription insulin drugs under certain policies of health insurance. Speaker, before you get started, I just wanted to let everyone know that I will be limiting testimony today. I will take 30 minutes in support, 30 minutes in opposition, and 30 minutes in neutral. That means that it will be 10 minutes here in Carson City, 10 minutes in Las Vegas if anyone shows up, and 10 minutes over the phone lines. And with that, Speaker Yeager, you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Chair Pazina, and members of the Joint Committees on Commerce and Labor. For the record, I am Steve Yeager. I represent Assembly District 9, which is down in southwest Las Vegas, and I'm proud to present to you Assembly Bill 555 this afternoon, and I want to thank you for hearing this bill. I know things are busy, and I want to acknowledge that this is the first time I've appeared in front of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. I'm sure it won't be the last time, but it's good to see you all. Assembly Bill 555 establishes provisions relating to the coverage of prescription insulin drugs under certain health insurance policies. Nevadans should never have to sacrifice life-saving medication because it is not affordable. That is not acceptable. With the passage of this legislation, we would be placing a hard cap on the cost of insulin for private insurance, no more than $35 for a 30-day supply. This is a promise that we would be making to tens of thousands of Nevadans who live with type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes and have struggled far too long with outrageous and unpredictable prices. As Nevadans continue to feel the pinch from the disastrous economic policies at the national level, it is incumbent on us at the state level to find solutions for them. Now, I think most of us here campaigned in 2024, and I'm sure that your voters made clear to you that their number one concern was rising costs. This legislation is a partial answer to that for so many Nevadans. Through this legislation, we'd be lowering costs for Nevadans, making sure they don't have to choose between necessary, life-saving medicine and basic necessities such as groceries, gas, or utilities. I'm bringing this legislation now because as state leaders, we must take actions to protect Nevadans. To every Nevadan listening, regardless of age, origin, gender, or zip code, if you are out there struggling, I want to say clearly that we see you, we hear you, and we've got your back. Chair, with your permission, I'll give some background information, and then I'll go through the sections of the bill, and I commit to you that I'll keep this as concise as I can because I know time is precious at this time of session. Diabetes is an epidemic in the United States. Over 38 million Americans have diabetes and face its devastating consequences. What is true nationwide is also happening in Nevada. According to the American Diabetes Association, approximately 250,900 adults in Nevada, or about 8.8% of our adult population, have been diagnosed with diabetes. Each year, an estimated 12,000 additional adults in Nevada are diagnosed with diabetes. There are serious complications of diabetes, such as heart disease, stroke, amputation, end-stage kidney disease, blindness, and even death. Insulin is a life-saving medication for people with diabetes. However, insulin prices have skyrocketed. There have been reports of high costs for the medicine, which lead many people with diabetes, especially those with insurance, without insurance, or with high deductible plans, to forego or ration their insulin, leading to serious health consequences. Americans with diabetes have medical expenses approximately 2.6 times higher than those without. The total estimated cost of diagnosed diabetes in the United States was $412.9 billion in 2022, including $306 billion in direct medical costs and $106 in reduced productivity attributable to diabetes. In Nevada, diagnosed diabetes costs an estimated $7 billion each year. In 2022, total direct medical expenses were estimated to be $3 billion. In addition, there were $4 billion in estimated indirect costs from lost productivity. And some Nevadans pay as much as $500 a month for their insulin. I want to emphasize that, $500 a month, which comes out to $6,000 a year. Under this bill, as I stated, it would be $35 for a 30-day supply. The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 caps insulin out-of-pocket spending at $35 per month for insulin covered under a Medicare Part D plan. That cap took effect in January 2023. In the time since, there has been an increase in the number of insulin prescriptions filled for Medicare beneficiaries. So we know this works. Chair, I provided some information on Nellis for you all to look at. I know your time is valuable, but I would point out to you, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, an exhibit from the American Diabetes Association that has a map on the front. And what you'll see there is this isn't a new idea. 26 states and the District of Columbia have capped co-payments for state-regulated commercial health plans. And those caps range from $25 to $100 for a 30-day supply. These state-level initiatives complement the federal efforts, such as the Medicare Part D $35 insulin cap under the Inflation Reduction Act. While the current healthcare system provides access to insulin for most people with diabetes, it still does not provide affordable insulin for everyone, and that needs to change. Chair, with your permission, I'll quickly walk through the sections of the bill, and then I'd be available for questions. Sections 1, 4, 6 through 9, 11, 15, and 16 prohibit certain private health insurers from imposing a deductible, co-payment, co-insurance, or other cost-sharing obligation greater than $35 for a 30-day supply of prescription insulin. Sections 2, 5, 10, and 13 clarify that an insurer may be required to impose a different deductible, co-payment, or co-insurance for a 30-day supply of an insulin drug than would otherwise be required by the relevant health insurance policy for other types of health care. Section 3 authorizes the Commissioner of Insurance to require certain insurance policies issued by a domestic insurer to a person who resides in another state to meet their requirements in certain circumstances. Sections 12 and 17 indicate that the requirements are inapplicable to coverage provided by a health maintenance organization or managed care organization to recipients of Medicaid or insurance under the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, and government employees and their dependents. Section 14 authorizes the Commissioner to suspend or revoke the certificate of authority issued to an HMO that fails to comply with these requirements. The Commissioner is authorized to take such action against other insurers that fail to comply with their requirements. Chair, that is the bill in its entirety. I want to thank you, Chair Marzola, Chair Pezina, and members of the Joint Committee. I strongly urge your support of this measure, and I am now available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Speaker, for your presentation and bringing this bill forward today. Committee members, are there any questions? Vice Chair Howdigi.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for bringing this bill. I'm very excited about this bill, but I do have one question. I know that the bill applies the maximum out-of-pocket cost of $35 for private insurance, but do you know if an individual walking in wanting to pay cash that doesn't have any insurance, would this also apply to them?
Steve Yeager, for the record, through you, Chair, to Vice Chair Howdigi.
You can go direct.
Thank you, Chair. To Vice Chair Howdigi, this bill only pertains to private insurance, so it does not require that a cash payer be given that same $35. Essentially, that would be a requirement on the pharmacy rather than the insurance policy. So as it's written right now, it only applies to private health insurance.
Chair Pezina.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's great to see you and great to be up here with the Joint Committee. My question is a little bit of a follow-up to Vice Chair Howdigi's. How many Nevadans do you think would be impacted by this? What percentage? And it could just be roundabout.
Steve Yeager, for the record, thank you for the question. So I'm going to do a little bit of math in just a second here. So I think the remarks I made at the beginning were that approximately 250,000 Nevadans, 250,000 adults in Nevada have diabetes. I believe, and we might hear this in some additional testimony, I think the private insurance market typically is around 19 to 20%, I believe, of the population. So if we did those numbers, you'd be looking at approximately 50,000. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all of them are on prescription insulin, but I think that would be sort of the outside number that we'd be looking at. So I think it's accurate to say tens of thousands could potentially benefit from this bill.
Members, any additional questions? Senator Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill forward. I think it's going to be important. Anything we can do to get the cost down. I've got family members that are on insulin. Even my dog is on insulin. But I watched the program the other night, the press conference by the President of the United States, and he come out forwardly saying that he was going to lower all costs of all prescriptions across the United States, starting immediately. And I hope that does go in. I'm hoping this gets in there before then to get some help. But he said he listed like Canada and Mexico, all these other countries and the costs that is costing the difference between the United States and these other countries. And I thought that was so amazing. And if they could get the costs down even half of what he's proposing, it'd be amazing. But he admitted that he'd drop it down to 80%. And I'm hoping to God that's the truth, or even get it to 50%, because the cost of medication is so much higher. And I know a lot of people from California go to Mexico.
Senator, is there a question?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I'm hoping that he could answer this, because this was a press conference done by the President of the United States. So could you answer that if you could, please? Thank you.
Steve Yeager, for the record. Senator Ellison, it might surprise you to know that the President does not consult with me before doing press conferences. I've read the media coverage of what happened, and I'll just say this. I don't know what's going on at the federal level, and if any of you know what's going on at the federal level, you should probably be a commentator on television. You'll be very successful. I hope it happens at the federal level. Prescription drug pricing is too high. I think we all know that. I mean, we knock on doors every day, and we talk to constituents who ask why the prices are high. They ask why the prices are higher here than they are in other countries. So I don't know what's going to happen, but what was important to me is to make sure that we add Nevada to this map with 26 states and the District of Columbia in red. There's no reason Nevada shouldn't be listed there. And so not knowing what the federal government's going to do, this is what we can do as a legislature right now in this moment. and we should get this passed and enacted into law. And if the federal government comes behind us and does something better or more comprehensive, I obviously would be all for that.
Assemblymember Urick.
Let's try again. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Obviously, reducing these copays isn't going to reduce the cost of insulin. So always concerned about maybe unintended consequences. Is it going to shift costs on these 26 other states and in the District of Columbia? Have we seen, or is there any data shows it's like had an adverse effect on premium rates or anything like that?
Steve Yeager, for the record. I can't speak to every state, although I'll tell you I didn't read anything in my research that indicated that that happened. I do think you're going to hear some opposition that indicates that, perhaps premiums are going to increase. I don't know, but it's worked in 26 other states, right? And to your point, there is a cost there, and I don't want to get too much into the back end healthcare infrastructure between, pharma, PBMs, insurance companies, pharmacists. For those of you that have lived through a session on health and human services, you know how complicated that can be. So my effort here was just try to do what I think is the simplest, most reasonable thing that we can do. Are there folks who are going to be upset by us doing this? Are you going to hear testimony that premiums might increase? I think you are going to hear that. But, when's the last time any of us had a premium decrease in our healthcare costs? We never get that, right? We never get it. And so these kind of arguments, although legitimate, they're made all the time that we can't do this. Well, I have a map here that says 26 other states. And by the way, these are not Democratic states or Republican states. We have everything from Washington to Oregon to Texas to Montana to North Dakota. So, this has been a bipartisan effort. And so I can't answer your question from a market perspective, but I think this is a good first step to take. And, I'll let the opposition make their points when it's their time to come up.
Assemblymember Cole.
Sorry. So my question is related to the notion of private insurance. You've mentioned that a couple of times. And I'm not seeing any implication on Chapter 287 of NRS. So I just wanted to make sure that it's very clear that we're not affecting any of the local governmental agencies or the public employees and their health plans. Thank you.
Gremlins in the system today. Well, they were there yesterday too. So, Steve Yeager, for the record, yeah, that's absolutely the intent, is just to cover private insurance. I did have some discussions with local government because they were concerned that maybe they were included in this language, but I think we had some robust discussion with legal counsel, and we are comfortable that the bill as drafted does not incorporate local government, does not incorporate the state health care plans. So I think that's clear in the bill, but to the extent it's not, and we pass this and some court down the road is looking for legislative intent, let me say clearly that the legislative intent of Assembly Bill 555 is to apply to private health insurance plans.
Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for bringing forward this bill. It is, as you said, so many of our constituents are reaching out to us constantly with healthcare costs, and so I think we are tasked with doing something regarding that, and so I really appreciate your bringing this forward. One of the questions I have for you, and I'm not quite sure if you can answer the details on that, but since it is just private health insurance, as far as the people that are covered under Medicaid now, are they not paying any co-pays, or they have no costs for that at this time, so that they're still protected?
Steve Yeager, for the record, I do not have the answer to that question. I would be happy to reach out to our state Medicaid folks to ask them. They are not expressly included in the bill, but I can get that information for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Members, any additional questions? I don't see any. Oh, I spoke too soon. Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Speaker, for the presentation. I was just curious to know on Section 14, and where we're looking at that's really where we have the teeth of enforcement should we see anyone not comply. I was just curious to know what that process looks like. I know we have the effective date of October, and ultimately the objective would be to, when you're renewing your policy, that's when it would trigger. And I'm just curious to know if we don't see it happening or we're not in compliance immediately, after the effective day and there's been a renewal of the policy. Do you know what that enforcement teeth looks like?
Steve Yeager, for the record, thank you for the question, Senator Flores. What I can say, based on my walkthrough of the bill, that, and by the way, I think someone from the Division of Insurance is here, so they may be able to answer this a little bit better later. But the commissioner does have the authority to suspend or revoke the certificate of authority. So, I think how this would work is most healthcare comes through the form of complaints to the Division of Insurance, and the Division of Insurance would then have the ability to investigate and figure out what the appropriate remedy is. But I think it would be a complaint system. So part of our duty, always as legislators, if we pass bills, is to make sure our constituents actually know about them, because contrary to popular belief, not everyone's paying attention to what we do up in the legislature. So, we want to make sure that they know. So if they qualify and all of a sudden, they're being overcharged, that they can go to the Division of Insurance, and the Division of Insurance can take enforcement action. That could include suspending or revoking the certificate of authority. I think that's probably like the last step in the process, right? There'd probably be some kind of effort to do something less than that.
And Madam Chair, could I have a quick follow-up? Thank you. And you just already, Speaker, hit the next point, and my final question was just the education campaign that's going to follow this. If you could just go into that a little bit.
Steve Yeager, for the record. Again, really important that we don't stop the work that we do once Sine Die comes and, we all go into campaign mode. But part of that is informing our constituents of what we did for them during session. And I think, Senator Flores, what you're going to hear after I'm done presenting is there are a lot of groups around the state who support this bill, who have the ability to communicate to folks in a broader way than we do. And so it really will be a collective effort. Of course, we should let our networks know, but I think you're going to hear from groups today who are very excited, and they're going to put the word out as well. So, and the last thing I'll say on that is I'm always open for suggestions too. We try to do our best, but we know that we live in a very busy world where attention is at a premium, so it can be really hard to permeate what's going on in daily life. So if you have ideas for how to get the word out, I would love to consider those.
Any additional questions? I don't see any. We will start with support testimony of Assembly Bill 555. We will start in Carson City. Is there anyone wishing to testify in support? Welcome. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You each have 2 minutes. You may begin when you're ready.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair, members of the Joint Committees. My name is Davida Tyson, D-A-V-I-D-A-T-Y-S-O-N, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Women's Lobby. We are here in strong support of AB 555, which would cap the out-of-pocket cost of insulin. This is a vital step towards addressing the rising cost of life-saving medication that too many Nevadans are struggling to afford. When insulin becomes financially inaccessible, families are forced to make impossible choices between paying for medication or for groceries or childcare. This is not just a healthcare issue, it is an economic justice issue. AB 555 directly supports the health and financial stability of Nevada's families, especially low-income households and single parents who are most affected by healthcare affordability. By capping insulin costs, this bill ensures better health outcomes and protects families from preventable medical debt and crisis. The Nevada Women's Lobby urges the committee to pass AB 555 and to continue prioritizing policies that make healthcare more affordable and more equitable for Nevadans. Thank you.
Hello, Chair and members of the committees. My name is Amber Falgout, A-M-B-E-R-F-A-L-G-O-U-T. I am the Communications Director with Battleborn Progress. We are in full support of AB 555. It is a simple, tragic fact that for far too many Nevadans, the cost of insulin is still far too high. These people are left with an impossible choice, their health or the cost of living. And they're left to ration their insulin and risk life-altering complications as a result. Those complications trigger a lifetime of pain and unending new costs, and all of it can be avoided if the people who need insulin can afford it. That is a full stop. If you need insulin, you have to be able to afford it. We thank Speaker Yeager for leading this effort, because passing a bill like AB 555 would show Nevada can still be a leader in proving that healthcare is a right, not a privilege for the wealthy few. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Chair Pizzina, and members of the committee. Kaylin Cardavani, Kardavani, on behalf of New Day, Nevada. We are so grateful to Speaker Yeager for the introduction of this bill. No one should have to choose between their health and putting food on the table. AB 555 tackles the cost of insulin head-on, making this life-saving medication affordable and accessible for Nevadans. This is a common-sense, people-first policy, and we are so proud to support this bill.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Chair Benzina. My name is Aisha Goins, for the record, Aesha Goins, and I'm here in my official title as First Vice President of the NAACP. I want to thank Speaker for bringing this bill. It's such an important bill to the people. And as the first Vice President, I wholeheartedly endorse this bill. This bill couldn't be more personal. My father, now retired, lives with diabetes and navigates the maze of medication costs daily. While some say money can't buy happiness, it certainly shouldn't cost a fortune to stay alive. This insulin price cap isn't just a policy, it's a prescription for justice that would directly benefit my father and countless others like him. For far too long, our communities have been forced to choose between medication and meals, between insulin and rent. This bill price cap on a 30-day insulin supply, the Nevadas are finally acknowledging that profiting from people's pain is not good medicine. After all, the only thing that should be sky high is our spirits, not the price of life-saving drugs. I urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and, well, both chairs. Good afternoon, and members of this committee. For the record, Liz McMiniman, AMIN, for the record, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Retail Association in Nevada. Retailers, our members across Nevada, employ thousands of Nevadans, many of whom rely on access to affordable, life-saving medications to stay healthy and productive. AB 555 is a practical and compassionate solution that helps address the rising cost of insulin, a drug that is not optional for many Nevadans who are living with diabetes. By capping the out-of-pocket cost, AB 555 provides predictability and relief to the working families while supporting better public health outcomes. This not only benefits the employees, but also employers who want to keep their workforce healthy and reduce long-term health care costs. Importantly, the bill achieves these goals without creating a fiscal impact to the state. And it includes oversight mechanisms to ensure compliance and fairness across the insurance marketplace. We thank the sponsors of this bill and the committee for bringing forward a bill that balances affordability, access, and accountability. Retail Association in Nevada recently went out on a poll, and overwhelmingly, the polling showed that the patients out there in Nevada are willing to pay, if they can pay a lower out-of-pocket expense, they're willing to pay a little bit higher in their benefits. So we appreciate the Speaker for doing this. I apologize for my allergies that are acting up this afternoon, but I do appreciate the committee hearing this bill and the Speaker for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairs Marzola and Pizzina, and members of the Joint Committee. My name is Jacqueline Nguyen, Nguyen, and I represent the Nevada State Medical Association, the oldest and largest organization representing our physicians in our state. We are in support of Assembly Bill 555. This legislation is a crucial step to ensuring that all Nevadans have access to affordable, life-saving medication. As you're aware, insulin is essential for the management of diabetes, a condition that affects countless numbers in Nevada. However, many individuals currently are forced to ration their insulin or forego other necessities to afford their medication. This actually burdens the entire healthcare system because then many of these patients then go to the ER or have more negative adverse outcomes down the road. This bill would alleviate such burdens, allowing patients to focus on their health rather than financial constraints. Implementing this cap would align Nevada with other states that have already taken similar actions, demonstrating a commitment of well-being to our residents and setting a precedent for proactive healthcare policy. Therefore, we're in support and thank you.
Thank you both chairs. For the record, my name is Eric Jang, ERICJENG. I'm the Executive Director of One API Nevada, representing Nevada's Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander families. And for a lot of families who already face language and access barriers and the rising cost of medications, AB 555's cap offers real relief, less stress at the pharmacy, fewer trade-offs between health and daily needs, and more peace of mind for our communities, for the caregivers. We thank Speaker Yeager for championing this life-saving effort. For over 10,000 Nevadans on Medicare, including many AA and HPI elders on fixed incomes, this cap has been a life-saving effort on the federal level. Too many have rationed and skipped doses due to costs, and this bill ensures these protections remain in place and aren't undone by partisan attempts to roll back popular federal legislations like the ACN and RIA. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Sanchez. With AB 555, Speaker Yeager is stepping up and leading the charge for Nevadans. As someone who has personally felt the weight of medical expenses, I know the heartbreaking reality of having to choose between the care you need and the bills you can't ignore. Medical debt is not just a burden, it's crippling. No one should be forced into that kind of decision. We've seen the federal government make promise after promise only to fall short. The bill helps protect Nevadans when the current administration fails to act. We can't afford to wait any longer. Let's be clear, insulin is a necessity, not a luxury. Speaker Yeager is standing up for the people of Nevada, and I urge this committee to do the same. Choose people over profits, pass AB 555. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. I do see you sitting in Las Vegas, sir. Are you testifying in support? You may begin when you're ready.
May I?
Yeah, absolutely. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cyrus Hojjati, Hojjaty. We appreciate this issue and this bill being forward. Time after time, this issue has been constantly been brought up, and believe it or not, this is a very bipartisan movement and effort that has been done. We'd like to thank the Speaker for bringing this over, and we'd like to thank all of you members of the committee for addressing our concern. I like the free market in many ways, but it doesn't always perform well. It's not like this utopian idea that competition and prices and all this stuff is going to magically solve our problems and make things more efficient, better quality, and lower prices. We've heard for years that prescription drug prices have been tried to be tackled, but yet promises have always been felt short. This bill will hopefully do that, or at least shake up the issue. It may not be perfect, but it is certainly a step forward. We hope in the future that other types of prescription drugs will be addressed, not to mention there's another bill that Assemblywoman Considine has addressed. Hopefully that will go forward. Not to mention this will be a huge benefit to our economy. When people have to take their income, especially their disposable income, to pay for medical care, that means there's less dollars in the other aspects of the economy, and other output, other effects, other potential jobs, boosting, and everything will fall short. Medical debt, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the leading causes of debt and causing a lot of strain and pressure on so many families across the country. It has got to stop. People should not choose between their health and their everyday life. So we'd like to thank you all for bringing this bill. Please bring this forward, and hopefully we can go beyond this as time moves on. Great pleasure.
Thank you for your testimony. I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas broadcast. Is there anyone on the line?
To testify in support for Assembly Bill 555, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in support, please press star 9.
Hello, my name is Lisa Lynn Chapman. That's Lisa, second name Lynn, last name is Chapman, Chapman. I am here testifying in support of AB 555. I am one of nearly 270,000 Nevadans living with diabetes. Most concerningly, it is estimated that an additional 70,000 Nevadans have diabetes and do not know it. Untreated diabetes can create detrimental and deadly complications, including cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, nerve damage, circulation issues, which lead to the amputation of toes and feet, and diabetic ketoacidosis. Last year, I developed diabetic ketoacidosis. It is a life-threatening condition that can lead to coma or death. It was a terrifying and painful experience that took over a month to get diagnosed. With constant glucose monitoring, insulin, medication, changing my diet, it is under control. However, there is an extreme financial cost. When I first started taking insulin, both short and long term, my needles and insulin were free, and my glucose monitor was $70 a month. However, when my work changed our insurance, suddenly my 2 insulins cost $60 each, and my insulin and my needles were $35 a month. Like most people, this cost was very difficult for me to absorb in my already stretched budget. Insulin is not an option for the almost 270,000 Nevadas living with diabetes. I thank Speaker Steve Yeager for introducing AB 555, which will cap insulin costs at $35 for all Nevadans. This is critical, life-saving legislation, and it is essential as our everyday costs rise. I thank you for your time and support in this life-saving bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rudy Zamora, and I'm here representing myself today. I'm here to urge you all to support AB 555. Thank you.
Chair, the public lines are open and working. We have no more callers choosing to testify in support.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 555. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition?
Was Wizard, W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D, Deputy State Director with American for Prosperity. First of all, we want to thank Speaker Yeager for bringing this bill forward. It is not an easy issue to address. As we've seen time and time again, healthcare is continuously dealing with some hurdles. And with American for Prosperity, we support policies that remove barriers to healthcare access, improves affordability, or allows patients to have choice and control of their care through free market principles. And I do want to emphasize the word free market principles and acknowledge that what we see on the federal level is not free markets. The reason we're here today is because of cronyism. Cronyism is where companies have utilized the government policies to position themselves to be the sole beneficiaries of the profits that's generated through policies and not the market forces in itself. And what we have here today is now states like Nevada considering approaching it in the same way that the federal government has approached it, and that's more cronyism. And that's just government involvement coming in with its authority to ensure that a particular product that we've deemed life-saving should be proposed for a particular price. Today, it's insulin. Tomorrow, it's chemo, and every other innovation that possibly may come to market. So today isn't about particularly diabetes, but it's about the power that's vested in every single seat that's in this room on whether the proper role of government should be to determine the prices of products, or should it be to remove the regulations that impact the ability for affordable prices to enter the product. Today, we have a government that has imposed in both directions, both federally and state, an authority that has distorted the market to where you've heard some people testify here today that they claim free market has caused this issue. I'm here to reassure you that free markets has not caused this issue. If we give free market a chance to repeal a lot of the regulatory parameters that have prevented alternative and competition to enter the market. We would see a market flourish not only with affordability, but with access. And with that, we think we think that this proposal should be more of a joint resolution rather than a state law, because we do see that this is a federal jurisdictional where these agencies have been
Sir,
co-opted.
can you please wrap up your testimony?
Thank you, Chair. Have been co-opted for these outcomes. With that, we urge you to reject AB 555, and we're happy to work with the Speaker Yeager and working on the federal delegation that can empower every Nevadan for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 555, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in opposition, please press star 9. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral?
Good afternoon, Chair Pazina and Chair Marzola. For the record, Shelley Capurro representing the Nevada Association of Health Plans, which is an 11-member organization of healthcare plans here in Nevada. And we appreciate the speaker's leadership on this issue, and we also appreciate our discussion earlier on the potential impacts, especially to our smaller plans and members who are even more impacted by the high cost of drugs like insulin. We support the goal of ensuring Nevadans can access affordable insulin. However, while this bill lowers the out-of-pocket costs, it does not address the underlying price of insulin. Instead, it shifts the cost to health plans, which may lead to higher premiums across the risk pool. Capping member cost sharing without tackling high drug prices may also reduce pressure on manufacturers and weaken the tools that the plans use to manage costs and ensure proper use. We share the speaker's commitment to affordability, and we hope to work together on long-term solutions that promote transparency and that hold drug manufacturers accountable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madams, Chairs, and members of the committee. It's a pleasure to see my favorite committee this afternoon. If I may start off by begging your indulgence on time, I think there's a couple questions that I wanted to address, and so I might go a little bit over.
That's fine.
Adam Plain, Division of Insurance, Plain, got to remember to do that. We did submit written testimony to both committees, so it should be on Nellis in your favorite location. I wanted to touch on a couple of items to begin with. First, because the bill does not mandate any new coverages, the division does not evaluate this bill as triggering any federal defrayal provisions, so we can get that out of the way. Secondly, the division did receive inquiries from various interested parties about the bill's potential effects on high deductible health plans. We did an analysis of that in our written testimony. I did not provide the citation, or I provided the citations, but not the source documents from the Internal Revenue Service, because I know LCB is having some policies about copyrighted materials and whatnot. So the citations and the links are in the written testimony to the IRS source documents, but in a nutshell, this bill should not affect the tax advantaged status of high deductible health plans in Nevada. I also wanted to, if I could, give a shout out to LCB staff. There's been a conversation behind the scenes this session about the term health benefit plan versus policy of health insurance, and it's been kind of a sticky situation. Just wanted to put on the record that while the terms are kind of used interchangeably in the bill, there is a qualifier that essentially says a policy of health insurance which provides coverage for prescription insulin drugs. And so that qualifier gets a thumbs up from the division, because that should ensure that, for say, standalone dental plans, supplemental policies don't have to worry about being dragged into this, even because they don't supply prescription drug coverage. Regarding the questions, real quick, Chair Senator Pazina had asked about the number of people affected. I did reference my handy 2025 insurance market guide. I did some quick math. By my estimation, as of 2023, 18.6% of Nevadans are covered by insurance policies in the commercial market. That would put us at about 600,000 people, give or take a little bit, with a CDC occurrence rate of approximately 11.6% of individuals, adults and children in the U.S. population being diabetic. I estimate that puts the Nevada population at around 70,000 people in the commercial marketplace having diabetes. And then to Senator Flores' question regarding Section 14 noncompliance, the division does have a essentially escalating process for health benefit plans in the individual and small group market. We review their rate and form filings every year, or actually around this time of year, in order to get them approved for sale, like through the exchange. So in those form filings, through the Unified Rate Review template process, they would have to show that their plan does conform with state law going forward, or else their plan design would not be approved. If for some reason their plan design was approved, but they did not stick to it, they did not provide those benefits to their consumers, we have a dedicated consumer services staff. They can call us. We can help adjudicate those issues. We've had a lot of success with that. If it turns out to be a pervasive problem with a particular insurer, for instance, the division can call a targeted market conduct examination under our authority under Chapter 679B, which allows us to examine their market conduct practices. Can be very inconvenient for insurers because they also get the pleasure of paying for that. And in the situation where their conduct is deemed egregious, as the speaker mentioned, the division has a formal administrative hearing process that can result in substantial fines, penalties, and up to the revocation of their certificate of authority or certificate of registration for noncompliance. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't believe we have any questions, and if so, people. Senator, do you have a question?
Yes, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
And so if I understood you correctly, you review in May. So if we do catch it, you would catch it in May of 2026. And then between the effective date of October through May of 2026, it would really be the consumer bringing up the concern, and that's when you would capture it there. Is that correct?
For the record, Adam Plain, Division of Insurance, Senator Flores. So we're actually going through the process for the individual and small group markets now for plan year 2026. So should the provisions of this bill become law, we would issue a bulletin or notice to our regulated market immediately, telling them that they needed to update their form filings for the 2026 plan year, because it would roll into effect for those policies issued 1/1/26, when most individual market policies are issued, and then on a rolling basis after the effective date for small group and large group plans.
Any additional questions? I don't see any, but we appreciate you being able to answer all the questions. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. There's no one in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Testify in opposition for Assembly Bill 555, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
We are not
Again, if you wish to testify.
Broadcast, we are in neutral.
To testify in neutral for
you.
Assembly Bill 555, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you so much. Speaker, would you like to give any final remarks?
Chair Marzola, Chair Pizzina, members of the Joint Commerce and Labor Committees, thank you for hearing this bill this afternoon. To me, and I think you've heard through the testimony, this is about more than policy. It's about relief for the family in North Las Vegas juggling too many bills, relief for the senior right here in Carson City choosing between groceries and medicine, relief for the small business owner in my district in Southwest Las Vegas who's been stuck paying hundreds of dollars a month just to stay alive, and relief for patients all over Nevada, tired of having to choose between the health of themselves and their families and basic life necessities. Across this state, we've heard heartbreaking stories a parent skipping their own dose so their child doesn't go without, a senior splitting vials to stretch through the month, a worker with good insurance still crushed by the price tag of staying alive. Chairs, after I introduced this bill, I learned that a lot of folks that I know have dealt with diabetes or their family members have, and I just want to read a text message that I got, and many of you know this person, so I'm not going to say who it is. But after this bill was introduced, I got a text message. Now, part of this is fact and part of it is opinions, but I'll read you the whole thing. My mother had childhood diabetes, had injections every day of her life, and died of complications when I was 23. You're a good man. That second part is opinion. But the first part is a fact. And so bringing legislation like this has just been extraordinarily satisfying to know how it impacts folks. And, one of the last things I want to say, Chair, is, the history of insulin. There were 3 creators who created insulin back in 1923. They discovered and patented insulin, and they assigned the patent rights for a symbolic $1 each to the University of Toronto. And at the time, one of the inventors, Frederick Banting, famously said, quote, "Insulin does not belong to me, it belongs to the world," end quote. And somehow we are here in the year 2025, and people are paying $500 a month for something that was assigned patent rights for $1 over 100 years ago. To me, that is not and never will be acceptable. And under Assembly Bill 555, it won't be tolerated. I want to thank you, chairs, and the committee for your time, and I urge your support of Assembly Bill 555.
Thank you, Speaker, for such an important bill that affects, like you stated, a lot of Nevadans. And that's why we do this job, right, is to help. And so I thank you. And with that, I close the hearing on Assembly Bill 555. 1 minute recess. The Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor will come back to order. Speaker Yeager.
Thank you, Chair. Just so the record is clear, under Rule 57.4, we have a 24-hour waiting period to work session bills out of committee. I am formally waiving that 24-hour waiting period. So, Chair, if you would like to work session this measure, you have permission to.
Thank you, Speaker, and that is my intention. It is not customary for the committee to take testimony or otherwise rehear the bills during a work session. However, I may invite a witness to come forward for clarification or questions during our consideration of a measure. We will start with Assembly Bill 555. I'll entertain a motion on Assembly Bill 555. I have a first from Vice Chair Howdiggy. I have a second from Assembly Member O'Neill. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Vice Chair Howdiggy. And that concludes our work session for today. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. We will start in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Adam Plain, resident of Assembly District 40. I just wanted to thank you for listening to Assembly Bill 555. I myself am diabetic. I have pretty good insurance through PEB, right? You know, it covers stuff pretty well. I pay a 90-day copay for my meds. With my condition and my comorbidities, I'm on insulin, metformin, Jardiance, a statin, semaglutide. I need pen needles and a continuous glucose monitor. The non-generics, insulin, I pay $80 for a 90-day supply. Jardiance, $80 for a 90-day supply. Semaglutide, $80 for a 90-day supply. And the continuous glucose monitors, $80 for a 90-day supply. That's $320 every 90 days for my non-generic medications on PEB. The list price for those 4 medications for a 90-day supply, where I'm not on PEB, is $4,000. Just wanted to bring that up as context as you consider the bill going forward for your floor session. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to give public comment? I don't see anyone. I see you seated in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. Cyrus Hojjati, H-O-J-J-A-T-Y. I wanted to talk about the budget shortfall, if it's okay. So I don't know exactly how much amount is it. It's in the hundreds of, it's a lot of money. I believe one of the main causes of this, it's just the fact that it's getting really overpriced to come to this area as visiting, especially the Las Vegas Strip. I look at year over year numbers and I find out that the Strip is down for year over year. All other areas like Fremont Street, Boulder are actually higher. So I think we got to really look at this whole system and ask ourselves that we've had for the last few decades, is it really working? You look at the pricing, the service, everything else, you know, and this affects pretty much everything, politics, growth. I mean, you go down the line. I think a lot of people are dissatisfied, at least more than they were 20 years ago. All you have to do is look at social media and the comments and everything. I mean, just look at my experience. You know, we had a convention a couple of days ago, and to pick up at the convention center, I was coming out of Convention Center Drive. In order to get in, I had to make a right turn down on Paradise, pass through Desert Inn, and then there was a one left turn lane to get into the convention center. And it was literally clogged up. It was insane. And you had all these people lined up in the convention center, literally like 1,000 foot north, and there was hardly any rides given. It was ridiculous. And we wonder why the numbers are not looking good, why we've had very little growth. So, you know, I've tried to reach out to the LVCVA. I think it's very, very important. But I think this is one of the things that's causing our budget shortfall. Maybe having 2 companies that run more than half of the action is not as exciting as we were led to believe. So please look at these numbers, and really thank you for having this very productive and amazing meeting. And I'd like to give a compliment if it's okay, but whenever the chair speaks, I feel like I'm in an airport terminal, like my next flight is coming up. I don't know if you guys ever thought about that, but it's just food for thought. But have a great one.
Thank you for your public comment. I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas broadcast. Is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. Our public lines are open and working. However, we have no callers to provide comment at this time.
Thank you. Committee members, are there any questions before we adjourn? And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Committee members, if I could have you guys just hang back for 1 second.